Did you know that Buddhism has its own version of the devil? And unlike the Christian Satan, this demonic figure has 3 daughters, who each specialize in a different type of temptation. Right now, these 3 seductive forces are working to trap you in endless suffering without you even realizing it. Today, we're diving into the dark side of Buddhist mythology to meet Mara, the closest thing Buddhism has to Satan, and his 3 daughters who represent the most powerful temptations humans face. The crazy part? Their tactics haven't changed in 2,500 years, and they're still working on us today, even through our smartphones. Stay with me, because knowing how to spot these 3 temptresses might be the key to breaking free from the cycles keeping you stuck. Hey wisdom seekers, Matt here, and today we're getting into something wild from Buddhist tradition. Before Buddhism spread worldwide, before meditation became trendy, the Buddha himself faced an epic showdown with a powerful supernatural being. His name was Mara, the Lord of Death and Desire, the King of Distraction, Buddhism's ultimate villain. But Mara wasn't working alone. He had 3 daughters, each representing a different kind of temptation that humans just can't seem to resist. Their names? Tanhā, Craving, Arati, Boredom, Discontent, and Rāga, Passion, Lust. 3 psychological forces so powerful, they've kept humans trapped in suffering for thousands of years. What makes this story so fascinating isn't just the mythology, it's how perfectly it describes the psychological traps we all fall into every single day, even with our modern technology and lifestyles. Picture this, the future Buddha, sitting under the Bodhi tree, determined to find the answer to all suffering. The night is dark, stars filling the sky, and Siddhartha Gautama is this close to breaking through to complete enlightenment. But suddenly, the air shifts. Something's coming, something powerful, and it does not want Buddha to succeed. Mara's voice slithers through the darkness.
Turn back, princeling. This path leads nowhere. Your kingdom awaits you. Your family needs you. Why torture yourself for nothing?
This is Mara. In that legendary night, as Buddha sat in deep meditation, Mara unleashed everything he had. First, his demon armies with weapons and fire, then powerful storms and earthquakes. But Buddha remained unmoved. Seriously, the guy didn't even flinch. When physical attacks failed, Mara tried something smarter. He sent his 3 daughters to seduce and distract Buddha with the 3 things humans can rarely resist: craving, boredom, and lust. Ancient texts describe them as appearing in forms designed to appeal to different temperaments, sometimes as alluring dancers, sometimes as nurturing mothers, sometimes as wise teachers. Whatever form would most likely succeed in pulling Buddha from his meditation, they would assume. Yet their true power wasn't in their appearance, but in the mental states they evoked. But we'll get to those temptresses in a minute. So who exactly is this Mara character? In Buddhist tradition, Mara isn't just some random demon. He's basically the Lord of Death itself. His name literally means destroyer. He represents everything that keeps us trapped in cycles of suffering. But here's where it gets interesting, and very different from the Christian Satan. Mara isn't some separate evil force battling against good. He's more like the voice in your head saying, just one more episode, just one more cookie, just check Instagram one more time. He's not trying to steal your soul. He's trying to steal your attention, your focus, your mental freedom. In Buddhist cosmology, Mara rules over the highest heaven of the desire realm. Imagine that. The Buddhist devil lives in a kind of heaven. This tells us something super important about Buddhist psychology. The most dangerous traps often disguise themselves as pleasures. Now, there's a big debate among Buddhist scholars. Was Mara a literal demon that Buddha faced? Or was he a personification of Buddha's own internal struggles, the mental obstacles we all face? The coolest part? It doesn't really matter. Because whether Mara is real or just a powerful metaphor, the effect is the same. He represents the forces that keep us from freedom. Consider the last time you were determined to start a new habit. maybe meditation, or exercise, or eating better. But then, something pulled you away. Something distracted you. Something made you doubt yourself. That was Mara. And what makes Mara scarier than the Western devil? Satan tempts you to break rules. Mara tempts you to break promises to yourself. Satan wants your soul in the afterlife. Mara wants your mind right now. In the famous Sutta Nipata, an ancient Buddhist text, Buddha describes Mara as the one who delights in sensual pleasure. Not because pleasure itself is bad, but because getting lost in temporary pleasures keeps us from finding lasting happiness. Now, most religious traditions have some kind of evil figure, but Mara is unique because the Buddha never said to worship anything to defeat him. No rituals, no prayers, no special ceremonies. Instead, the Buddha taught something radical. The way to defeat Mara is simply to see him clearly, to recognize when your mind is being pulled by craving, to notice when you're being manipulated by desire. As Buddha himself supposedly said, "I see you, Mara." Those 4 words changed everything, because once you see the traps, it loses its power over you. But Mara's greatest strength, his 3 daughters, each specialized in a different type of temptation, each designed to exploit a different weakness in the human mind. And that's where our story gets really interesting. So let's meet daughter number 1, Tanhā, whose name literally means thirst or craving. Of all of Mara's daughters, she might be the one you spend the most time with, maybe without even realizing it. Imagine that feeling when you really want something, like need it, that pull in your chest, that sense that you won't be happy until you get it. That's Tanhā working her magic. In the ancient texts, Tanhā is described as the maker of the fetters that bind people to the cycle of rebirth. Pretty heavy stuff. But in simple terms, she's why you can't eat just one potato chip. Tanhā whispers, just one more scroll, one more purchase, one more bite, then you'll feel complete. Buddha identified Tanhā as the root cause of suffering in his famous 4 Noble Truths. That's right. Of all the problems humans face, he pointed to craving as the biggest one. But why is wanting things so bad? Don't we need desires to function? To have goals? The Buddha never said desires themselves were the problem. It's clinging to them. The difference is subtle but crucial. Think about it like this. You want a new phone. Nothing wrong with that. But then you become convinced you can't be happy without that phone. You check prices every day. You imagine how much better life will be once you have it. You get irritated waiting for it. That's when Tanhā has hooked you, and she's gotten so much better at her job in the modern world. Social media? Tanhā's playground. Every scroll designed to make you want something new. Every influencer showing you a life you don't have. Every targeted ad perfectly matched to your secret desires. In an ancient Buddhist text called the Dhammapada, Buddha says, "From craving springs grief, from craving springs fear. For one who is wholly free from craving, there is no grief, much less fear." Modern science actually backs this up. Studies show that the dopamine hit we get isn't actually from getting what we want. It comes from the anticipation, the wanting itself. That's why satisfaction never lasts. The brain is literally wired to keep wanting more. But here's the twist. Tanhā doesn't just make us want stuff. She comes in 3 flavors. First, there's craving for sensual pleasures. The obvious one, food, sex, comfort, the newest iPhone. Second, there's craving for existence, the desire to be someone, to achieve, to be important, to leave a mark. Think social media followers and career ambition. And third, there's the weird one, craving for non-existence, the desire to escape, to numb out, to not feel. This is why we binge Netflix, drink too much, or scroll mindlessly for hours. The Buddha taught that all 3 types keep us trapped. So how do you know when Tanhā is working on you? Look for these signs. That feeling of "I'll be happy when," that's her. That itch to check your phone every 5 minutes, that's her. That sense that what you have isn't enough, definitely her. So how did Buddha recommend dealing with this first daughter? not by fighting her, not by giving in either, but by seeing the craving clearly and understanding its empty nature. In his own words from the Majjhima Nikaya, whatever in the world is pleasant and agreeable, toward this craving arises, seeing its arising and passing away as it actually is. That's the path to its cessation. Simply put, when you feel that craving rise up, don't judge it, don't fear it, just notice it. Oh, there's craving. Watch it rise. Watch it eventually fade, without acting on it. Try this experiment next time you feel a powerful want. Set a timer for just 10 minutes before giving in. Just observe the feeling. You might be shocked to discover that many cravings naturally fade on their own when not fed with attention. The more you practice this, the more you'll start to notice the space between wanting something and deciding to pursue it. That space, that's where your freedom lives. Now let's talk about Mara's second daughter, Arati. Her name translates to boredom or discontent, and she might be the quietest, yet most dangerous of the three. While her sister Tanhā makes you chase what you don't have, Arati makes you dissatisfied with what you do have. She's that voice whispering, "Is this all there is? This is boring. There must be something better." In the ancient texts, Buddha described Arati as a force that creates restlessness and discontentment. And if you look closely, you'll see her fingerprints everywhere in modern life. Arati murmurs, "This meditation is pointless. You could be doing something productive. Anything would be better than this emptiness." When was the last time you just sat quietly for 10 minutes? No phone, no TV, no music, no conversation. Just sitting. Hard, right? That discomfort you feel? That's Arati. A study at the University of Virginia found something crazy. People would rather give themselves electric shocks than sit alone with their thoughts for just 15 minutes. Let that sink in. Actual physical pain seemed better than boredom. Arati has leveled up in the smartphone era. That urge to pull out your phone in an elevator, during commercials, even in the bathroom. That's her work. The average person now checks their phone about 150 times a day. Not because we need to, but because we can't stand the emptiness of an unoccupied moment. Buddha recognized this human tendency thousands of years ago. In the Pali texts, he uses the term abhijapa, a kind of mental restlessness that prevents peace of mind. He observed that humans have this weird tendency. We're constantly bouncing between craving and aversion, wanting and rejecting, never content with the simple experience of now. Arati especially loves to attack during meditation. That sudden thought that this is pointless. The fidgeting, the checking how much time is left, the planning what you'll do after. All her tactics. Buddha never condemned boredom itself, only our reaction to it. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha's central teaching on mindfulness meditation, Buddha teaches, when the mind has restlessness, one knows, my mind has restlessness. This simple awareness starts to dissolve Arati's power. You see, Arati's whole game depends on you not noticing her influence. She wants your discontent to feel natural, inevitable. She wants you reaching for distraction automatically. The next time you feel that itchy boredom sensation, try something radical. Don't immediately reach for distraction. Instead, get curious about the feeling itself. Where do you feel it in your body? What's it actually like to be bored? Is it really as unbearable as it seems? Neuroscience now confirms that this boredom avoidance habit literally reshapes our brains, making us less able to focus, less creative, and ironically, more prone to feeling bored. Some of the most powerful meditation traditions directly challenge Arati. Zen practices like just sitting, Vipassana's body scanning. These aren't just spiritual exercises, they're training in Arati resistance. The Buddha taught that true contentment comes from within, not from constant stimulation. As he reportedly said, there is no higher happiness than peace. And peace isn't the absence of boredom, it's freedom from being controlled by the fear of boredom. So next time you feel that pull to check your phone for the 100th time, or switch to a new YouTube video after 30 seconds. Remember Arati. Take a breath. And maybe, just maybe, choose to sit with the discomfort instead. Because here's the secret Buddha discovered. On the other side of boredom lies something amazing, a kind of natural joy and curiosity that only appears when we stop running from the present moment. Now we come to Mara's third daughter, and possibly his secret weapon, Rāga, whose name means passion or lust. Of the three sisters, she might be the most misunderstood. When Buddha talks about Rāga, he's not just talking about sexual desire, though that's definitely part of it. He's talking about that fiery, intense attachment to anything that clouds our judgment. Think of that rush when you're intensely attracted to someone, or that burning need to be recognized, or that passionate conviction that you're right and everyone else is wrong. That's Rāga doing her thing. In the Anguttara Nikaya, Buddha says, just as a tree cut down sprouts again, if its roots remain unharmed, suffering repeatedly arises as long as the tendency of passion is not rooted out. Rāga beckons. Follow this feeling wherever it leads. Nothing matters but this moment of desire. Surrender completely. Unlike her sisters who make us feel bad, Rāga makes us feel good, really good. Sometimes so good we lose ourselves completely. And unlike craving, which is about wanting what we don't have, or boredom, which is about not wanting what we do have, passion is about getting lost in what we're experiencing. Now, it's super important to understand. Buddha never said passion itself was bad. He wasn't anti-pleasure or anti-fun, but he warned about becoming a slave to passion. The difference is key. Healthy desire moves you forward. Rāga's trap makes you obsessed. Think about those moments when you've been completely controlled by a feeling. Maybe intense jealousy, or overwhelming infatuation, or blinding anger. Did you make your best decisions in those states? Probably not. Modern society worships passion. Follow your passion. Live passionately. But Buddha offered a more nuanced perspective. He taught that passionate feelings, while powerful, are also passing. They rise and fall like weather. And building your life around chasing those intense emotional highs is like trying to warm yourself with lightning. In our world, Rāga works through some pretty obvious channels. The entire dating app industry, the way politics turns us against each other through righteous anger, celebrity worship, even hustle culture that glorifies burning yourself out for success. But Buddha offered a fascinating perspective on working with passionate feelings. In a famous teaching called the Fire Sermon, Buddha compared all our sensory experiences to a fire, not something to be feared, but something to be understood as impermanent and ultimately unsatisfying when clung to. So how do we deal with Rāga's influence? Not by suppressing passion, that never works, but by developing a mindful relationship with it. When intense emotions arise, Buddhist practice suggests observing them with friendly curiosity. Oh, there's anger. There's attraction. Not judging, not feeding, just seeing clearly. The Buddha taught a practice called guarding the sense doors. This doesn't mean shutting yourself off from experience. It means staying aware of how sights, sounds, tastes, touches, smells, and thoughts affect your mind. A simple practice: when you notice passion arising, pause. Take 3 conscious breaths. Notice where you feel the emotion in your body. This tiny gap creates space for wisdom. A verse from the Therigatha, an ancient Buddhist text, says, "From passion springs grief. From passion springs fear. For one who is wholly free from passion, there is no grief, much less fear." The goal isn't to become some emotionless robot. The goal is freedom from emotions, rather than freedom of emotions. See the difference? Of all Mara's daughters, she's the one who can most easily be transformed. Passionate energy, when channeled with wisdom, can fuel compassion, creativity, and even spiritual awakening. Some Buddhist traditions even talk about transforming poison into medicine, using the energy of passion while staying free from its control. And this is where our story takes an unexpected turn. Let's go back to that night under the Bodhi tree. The future Buddha, surrounded by Mara's armies, tempted by his 3 daughters. Everything at stake. What did Buddha do that was so powerful, so revolutionary, that it's still changing lives 2,500 years later? First, he didn't fight. Imagine that. Faced with literal demons, he didn't raise a weapon. He didn't even stand up. Instead, he performed one simple, profound gesture that echoes through time. Buddha extended his right hand downward, fingertips brushing the earth beneath him. This single touch, the Bhumisparsha mudra, connected him to something immovable, authentic, and true. With this gesture, Buddha silently declared, "I see you, Mara." But what does it mean? The gesture was Buddha calling the earth itself as his witness, basically saying, "I belong here. I have the right to seek liberation, and nothing can stop me." The power wasn't in some magical spell or divine intervention. The power was in Buddha's awareness, his complete presence, his refusal to be distracted from truth. As the story goes, when Buddha touched the earth, Mara and his daughters couldn't maintain their illusions. The armies vanished, the temptations lost their power, and Buddha achieved enlightenment, becoming the awakened one. This isn't merely ancient legend. Buddha left us a roadmap to create our own earth-touching moments. The core of Buddha's approach, mindfulness. That's just a fancy word for clear, non-judgmental awareness of what's happening right now, inside and outside. Modern science shows this works. A 2015 study from Brown University found that mindfulness meditation actually changes brain activity in the regions associated with craving and emotional reactivity. Another study from University College London showed that mindfulness techniques were more effective for breaking unwanted habits than willpower alone. So how does awareness defeat each daughter? For Tanhā, craving, awareness shows us the empty nature of wanting. We see how the mind creates a story that, "This thing will make me happy," and we can choose not to believe it. For Arati, boredom, awareness reveals the richness of the present moment. The more closely we pay attention, the more interesting, even boring experiences become. For Rāga, passion, awareness creates space between the feeling and our response. We can feel the heat without getting burned. We can experience desire without being controlled by it. In the Satipatthana Sutta, Buddha offers a simple but profound instruction. When walking, know I am walking. When standing, know I am standing. When sitting, know I am sitting. When lying down, know I am lying down. This isn't just about labeling activities. It's about bringing full awareness to every moment, leaving no room for Mara and his daughters to slip in unnoticed. Buddha famously said, "All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world." This isn't just philosophy, it's practical psychology. Our thoughts create our reality. When we see clearly, without the distortions of craving, boredom, or blind passion, we experience freedom. Buddha's revolutionary insight reveals that victory over Mara isn't a one-time battle, but a moment-by-moment practice. Even after his enlightenment, Buddha reported that Mara still appeared to him. The difference was, Buddha could always see him clearly. "I see you, Mara." This is what victory looks like in real life, not the absence of temptation, but the presence of awareness that gives us choice. What does this look like in practice? When you feel the urge to buy something you don't need, I see you, Tanhā. When you feel restless during a quiet moment, I see you, Arati. When you feel overwhelmed by attraction or anger, I see you, Rāga. Just this simple recognition, this naming of the force at work, cuts its power dramatically. As Buddha taught, just as a solid rock is not shaken by the wind, the wise are not shaken by praise or blame. With practice, we develop the stability that can't be moved by Mara's tricks. So what's the big takeaway here? Are Mara and his daughters real supernatural beings, or just symbols for psychological forces? It doesn't actually matter. Whether you see them as literal demons or as metaphors for states of mind, the practice is exactly the same. Recognize them. Name them. Don't fight them. Don't follow them. Just see them clearly. Different Buddhist traditions approach Mara in unique ways. Theravada often emphasizes Mara as representing the 5 aggregates that bind us to suffering. Mahayana traditions sometimes portray Mara as ultimately empty of inherent existence, himself subject to dependent origination. Vajrayana might view Mara's energies as potentially transformable into enlightened awareness through specialized practices. The daughters of Mara are working on all of us, all the time. Every advertisement, every social media feed, every moment of consumer culture plays on these same 3 forces. But here's the mystery I promised you. What if Mara's daughters aren't our enemies after all? What if Mara's daughters are actually our greatest teachers in disguise? Tanhā doesn't just create suffering, she reveals where we're still attached. Each craving points precisely to what we need to examine. The stronger the wanting, the more important the lesson. Arati doesn't just make us uncomfortable, she invites us into the present moment. Her restlessness challenges us to discover what lies beyond distraction. The spaces she makes us avoid contain our deepest insights. Rāga doesn't just cloud our judgment, she shows us the power of our own energy. Her fire, when recognized and channeled, transforms into the warmth of compassion and the light of wisdom. The daughters aren't obstacles on the path. They are the path. These challenges aren't punishment, they're the training ground, the gym where we build our spiritual muscles. As one Zen master put it, no mud, no lotus. Without the challenges, there's no growth. So next time you feel craving pull at you, or boredom push you toward distraction, or passion cloud your judgment, try something new. Instead of seeing it as a failure or a problem, see it as an opportunity, a chance to practice awareness, a chance to touch the earth. And remember what Buddha discovered under that tree. The power of Mara and his daughters only works when we don't see them clearly. The moment we recognize them, we're already free. So, wisdom seekers, keep your eyes open. The daughters of Mara are everywhere, in your phone, in your mind, in your daily life. But with awareness, their temptations become your teachers. Which of Mara's daughters visits you most often? Is it Tanhā's endless wanting, Arati's restless boredom, or Rāga's consuming passion? Share your experience in the comments below. And if you found value in today's exploration, help others discover these insights by liking, subscribing, and sharing with someone facing their own battle with Mara's daughters. Until next time, this is Matt from Buddha's Wisdom, reminding you that the greatest superpower is simply seeing clearly.